So what we'll do is completing the square, and we'll look at that formula, that quadratic formula. So the natural or the general form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And we're going to solve this by completing the square. So the first thing we do is we write it as ax squared plus bx equals c, minus c. And now we're going to divide everything by a. So we get ax squared plus b over ax equals minus c over a. And now we're going to complete the square. So how did we complete the square before? What we did, if it was something like this, remember, x squared plus 10x equals 3, say. What we did, we halved the 10 to make 5 and then squared it. So it became 5 squared plus 5 squared. So we're going to do exactly the same here. We're going to half b over a and square it. So it's going to be b over 2a, and we're going to square it. And we're going to add it to this side, b plus 2a, and we're going to square it. Because whatever you do to one side, you must do the other. So what do we have here? We have the perfect square of x plus b over 2a squared equals this minus c over a plus b squared over 4a. Just squaring the top and squaring the bottom, 4a squared. Okay, so we're getting a bit closer to that formula. Now what we're going to do is, probably the next step is to just simplify this a little bit. I'll just move it up. And so we're going to get x plus b over 2a all squared. We haven't done anything to that. Equals, let's make this a common denominator here of 4a squared. So we're going to need to times this by 4a, so we're going to times by 4a over 4a, and so that gives us minus 4ac over 4a plus b squared over 4a. And before, what the next step that we did was to take the square root of both sides. When we take the square root of that, it's fairly easy. It just becomes x plus b over 2a. And this side, we're going to take the square root of this. And instead of writing it out in this fashion, I'm going to write it out the other way. So it becomes b squared minus 4ac all over, sorry, that should be 4a squared up there, 4a squared. Because 4a times a gives us 4a squared, and we had a 4a squared. And that's pretty much the formula. Remember, this is going to be plus or minus. So what you get is, moving it up, that x equals minus b over 2a plus or minus. And if we split this up, the top becomes the square root of b squared minus 4ac. And the bottom becomes the square root of 4a squared. The nice thing is, what's the square root of 4a squared but 2a? So what you end up with is minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. And all of that is over 2a. And that's how we get the formula for a quadratic equation. Thanks.